it's a pleasure to be here. I didn't expect Dev Day to be as grand as what it looks to be. So it's very inspiring, really, to see a room full of young people who want to make a change and who are trying to build a career as well in the process. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I was in Dubai 2 days ago. Actually, I came this morning. I came a little early to make it for the event. And my topic was going to be the creativity, the bedrock of development, software development, of innovation. And then I was listening to a talk, and there was this guy who said that Agile is a mindset. And that stuck me. I was not going to speak a word about Agile because I thought, my God, what the devil do I know about Agile? Agile is Kanban and Scrum and all that stuff that's completely alien to me. And then I started reading and discovering, and I found something fascinating in the Agile Manifesto. Now, how many of you are involved in Agile? Is everyone involved? Just a show of hands. My God, overwhelming majority. But I'm not going to embarrass you by asking you what are the 4 principles or values of Agile or the 12 principles of Agile. I know that in my own company, we were not doing software development. We started doing software development only about a year ago. A little more than a year ago, but we started organizing ourselves and to start thinking as a software company only about 6 months ago. And meanwhile, I was discovering 2 things struck me about the Agile Manifesto. Very interesting. The first value is we value individuals and interactions more than process and tools. 4th value, we respond to change rather than follow a plan. And I was thinking, my God, this is the very basis on which we formed Enable 10 years ago with 13 people. And yet, we completely missed the bus when we started building a software development, and I left it to them to figure out what is Agile. And we missed these principles completely because we are all caught up with Scrum and Kanban and tools and all that. Now we come to principles, even more interesting. The first principle says customer satisfaction through early and continuous delivery of value, not code and product. It has to bring some value. So the word value is important, continuous value. 5th principle, support, trust and motivate the people who are involved. And I just spoke to the gentleman from Millennium, and I'll come to that in a minute. I used to work at Millennium IT. I was running the systems integration business, which actually supported the company for 3 years when they went through a very difficult time. We gave them profits of $1 million, the next year $1 million, and another year $2 million. And because the 9/11 disaster hit some of their top customers, in fact, one customer was just 1 floor above the floor with the bomb hit. I didn't start the clock, so sorry, I'll be about 3 minutes behind. So I was there, so I know what that company is, and I'll come to that in a minute about trust, motivate the people involved. And the 10th point, very interesting, simplicity. Just do enough for the time being. Now, I was thinking, these are the principles on which we have founded Enable. I'll just give you an example. People, individuals for us, absolutely important. In fact, we suck at process, and everybody comes and says, Peter, you don't have a process. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that worked out well, because 10 years later, without much process and tools, we are a 200 people company, we do $20 million in top line, and we serve some of the largest customers. Our focus has always been on people. And responding to change, we started this company in 2008, we had a great plan, and there was a big opportunity at Dialogue, $5 million. Okay, we thought with negotiation, all that will come down to $3 million. And then we hired some key engineers, had only 12 people. 3 of them were to deliver this project. We were damn sure we were going to win it. That year, Dialogue went from 10 billion profit to 0. And the next year they went to minus 10 billion loss. Straight line. Business plan, gone. Now what do we do? Fortunately, a thing called virtualization came, it caught my attention. And I realized quickly, now this is not a $3 million opportunity, this is much smaller, but we quickly caught on to virtualization. You all know what it is. We evangelized this at a time when nobody was talking about it. And then, I spoke to 30 CEOs 23 of them we converted, and we started a completely different journey just to sustain the business. Others would have been bankrupt. Change direction, and we celebrated small wins, and I'll come to that in a minute. Small wins. You know, we were a company at Millennium. We wouldn't touch a project unless there was $50,000 GP. And here are our 13 guys walking in with purchase orders, $1,000 GP. And we were applauding them and hugging them. That's how we inspired ourselves. Coming to motivation, I'll come to that later. Simplicity. It's a fascinating thing. I was reading Charles Mingus. I think some of you must have heard of Charles Mingus, famous jazz musician, fabulous composer. In fact, he is a big proponent of collective improvisation. You improve as you play together. He said something really fantastic. He said creativity is more than just being different. Anyone can be plain weird. That's easy. What's hard is to be as simple as bark. And then he goes on to say, making the simple awesomely simple. That's creativity. So don't complicate your life too much. If you can do simple things, that'll have profound impact. So that's what we did. Now, for example, just 2 years ago, we had a business planning session, and I said, bring numbers. And there was this guy who bought, he's a pre-sales technical person. He brought this number, just his one number. And he said, the banks in Sri Lanka, 9 banks are going to spend 30 billion rupees on ICT. That's all he brought to us. Actual budgets, not guesswork. With that idea, we started, I said, my God, how many companies can go after this money? So various guesses, I said, let's say 10 companies. So if we get 10% of that share, we will double our revenue. We'll get 3 billion, we'll double our revenue. Now, we didn't create a big master plan. Oh, how do we go after this 30 billion? No. We just did a few small things. We struck a partnership. We started with one customer. We started evangelizing the idea of digital banking and what it means. Today, we are a very important bank, and we are shortlisted in 2. We are starting on a new journey with a promise of $54 million worth of business in 18 to 24 months. That's 9 billion rupees qualified funnel. But simple steps. We were not overwhelmed by this fact that, my God, 53 million, we are a big plan, nothing of the sort. And that plan is changing as we go along. So I was thinking, if that is what is agile, why did I completely miss this and didn't relate these fundamental principles and vision to our software development? And I think that's what's happening in most of your companies. You're saying agile, but is it really agile? You may be doing all this Scrum and all that, that's fine, that's not the point. The important thing is, do you have an agile mindset? Each one of you, do you have a mindset that is agile? And what is an agile mindset? I mean, you know the definition of agile, it means to move quickly and easily, right? But the agile mindset, and that led me to this idea, it's not very different from a growth mindset, which means growth mindset, you celebrate small wins. Now, how can you have a growth mindset when your growth mindset is killed when you go to school? Imagination is what you need, right? What happens? 98% of the population, people in the world, actually all people in the world I thought had imagination, but turns out only 98% have imagination. 2% have a condition called aphantasia. They can't see pictures in their head. In fact, the founder of Firefox, Ross Blake, I think, he had aphantasia. He said, I can't see pictures of my father playing with me or my mother or anything like that. Very sad situation. But 98% of you have imagination. What happens? As I said, terrible thing happens to you. You're sent to school. And those fellows will finish you off. Actually, it starts at home. Because growth mindset is about asking questions. Now, you ask questions at home. What do they say? Panditya vendepa. For the benefit of those who don't speak English. We say, don't be a bloody, a philosopher or a pundit, don't. They completely humiliate you. Kata wahaganam api kiyana de karan, parents say. I say, what am I kiwane karan? Kata wahagana karan. Just do it. Because we tell you to do it. Because this is best for you. And then you go to school. Look at our scholarship program, Shishwatya. How many Shishwatya students here? Maybe a Now, how many of you really enjoyed the Shishatya? You see my point. When you're 5 years old today, maybe you all escaped it. Today, at 5 years, they take these children who have this wonderful ability of curiosity and asking questions and growth mindset, and they prepare them for this terrible bloody thing called the Shishatya, the scholarship exam, which is an exam to send children to the best funded schools in this country. And they kill them. And you know, the other day I saw a big billboard which said, one day workshop. Bloody workshop for the Shishatya student. I thought it's for the parents. You know. And these, have you seen the children who, I hope none of you became first or second or third, generally photographs, first prize Shishatya, second, they are not smiling and I'm the first, because they kill their spirit in the process. So, how can you have a growth mindset? Now, I have a partner and her foster sister's son. He is 7 years old. I'm wondering whether he's dyslexic, but maybe not. I don't want to jump to that conclusion. But he gets his alphabet. He still can't get the alphabet around his head, you know. But he's a very smart guy. He was making kites from the time he was 5 years old. You know how difficult and he said that, and he's balanced. He's learning physics. And the other day I saw him playing with the wheelbarrow, actually, not the other day, about a year ago. So he was having the wheelbarrow, he was filling it with bricks, and he would carry and carry and carry. And he would fill it to the point that he could carry the wheelbarrow. Then he starts to move. Then he realizes these are two different forces working now. Then he starts unloading the bricks. Then he knows I have enough load now to move this wheelbarrow. He's learning physics without knowing it. This guy came home one day, right? And damn pleased. So we said, what's there? They gave him some paper in school, some questions. 20 questions, one right. Ooh, very happy. Why? 20 problems, I cracked one. That's the problem. Our schools, we start at 20. You get 20 right, great. 19, okay, and you go down, 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 down. By the time you come to 5, you're gone, finished. They say, oh, bloody idiot. And now parents come for this parent-teachers meeting. And now the child has got 98, let's say, for math, chemistry, or home science, or religion, or whatever. What's the first question they ask when they come to school? What's the first question? What do you think? Now, they got 98. Now, the mother has come with all the marks, and mothers are more important. They're more concerned about it. They're running from teacher to teacher. So, most times you say, why did you get the next two, the other 2 marks? But before that, they come and ask the teacher, Venakatare siya kamunal. Did anyone else in class get 100? Then the teacher says, about 5 people got, Modeaka, bloody fool, couldn't you have got another 2? Where do you draw the line? 98 even is not good enough. So, how can you think, how can most of you who came through the system honestly say, I have a growth mindset, when you have effectively killed it off through school and through your early life in your family? Now, fortunately for me, I am not saying that I am a wonderful person, but I'm thinking, looking back on my life, I'm thinking, what is it that I had? I mean, I didn't have a degree. I never went to business school. I didn't go to an acting school. I even flunked my A-levels. That's another story. That's because I was fascinated about, not because I'm a fool, but I was very interested. And you spoke about quantum, Dave. 2 people interested me, Max Planck and Niels Bohr. Fascinated by them, I started asking questions. The master said, I say, Pandita Prashna hala, sure, I failed when I exam. I failed. He said, don't be a bloody smart ass. You will definitely flunk the exam. And I said, I did. But recently I was reading a book called The 7 Basic Lessons of Physics. Dave, you may have seen that. Carlo Rovelli. Small book. It taught me much more about quantum and gravitational field and particle physics than I could have ever learned in school or in university. So, I fortunately, my father, I say fortunately now, died when I was 4 years old. Now, some of you know this, I come from a very big family, 11, my mother and father 12, 13, my grandmother 14, 2 of my cousins, 15 people in the house. I was 4 years old, my father was 64, so he conceived me when he was 60, I am 60 now, maybe that's why he said, So, maybe I can now have a child to follow my father's footsteps. So man dropped dead. Bloody household, left destitute almost. No income. Elder sister was married, 14 people in the house. But I had complete freedom. No one interfered with me. No scholarship, shishate, any bloody nonsense. No homework, nothing. Completely free. And my father was a conservative Catholic. He would have said, no, this is what God says. The world was made in 7 days, you bloody well believe it. So no question of my going and learning quantum physics or any bloody thing like that, you'd have finished me off. So I was, say fortunate. Because you see, this is the problem. We don't let children, because, dream. That's more important than thinking. Because, Ray Bradbury, who is a famous American author and a screenwriter, science fiction and stuff like that, he said, don't think. Thinking is the enemy of creativity. Don't think, because thinking is self-conscious, and anything self-conscious is lousy. So he's saying, dream, imagine. How can you dream on Sunday morning when you're dreaming, Adu, Nagitaba, Daham Pasal? I came from a Catholic family and I survived, but we learned the basics of Dharma, or the truth, through our life. Not going to a Dharma school every Sunday. And fellow, Sunday you need to rest and recover. Energy. How can you daydream and think? And those fellows are woken up, dressed in white, and they're dragging their bags along the road, and they come back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No chance. So that's what I'm trying to challenge you. How do we break out of this and try to see whether we can have this imagination, which is the foundation of creativity and the growth mindset that we spoke about. So how can we? So like I said, I came to my own life, and I constantly, my whole life has been about asking questions, curiosity. That's the other thing. So you can't have a growth mindset unless you're curious, deeply curious, always asking questions, even in the work that you do. Is this meeting my customers' requirement? Can you imagine? You're constantly working with the customer and trying to see what are the changes I need to bring value, agile. Are you really thinking like that? Are you curious about the possibilities that there are? Or are you just doing it because that's what you've been told to do? And the other thing about creativity, another interesting thing that relates to you, creativity has more to do with elimination of the inessential. In coding, if you only eliminate stuff, you'll make a damn fine software, isn't it? There are 50 ways in which you can access the database, but different ways, and you come to an organization and they say, well, this is how we do it, this is how we've done it all the time, just go do it like this. You have no time to question it and challenge it. But if you go into that program and say, let's remove all the inessential stuff, there itself is creativity. You don't have to think of anything new. The next thing is curiosity, growth mindset, all that is fine. But the important thing is to engage. If you're not truly engaged in whatever you do, you can't make it. How engaged are you in this agile process, in the development software that you're doing? How engaged, how much of invested are you in this? Or are you coming to work and it's a job and good engineering stuff, like Dave said, good engineering, but how engaged are you with the problem? I think that is very, very important. Whatever I have done, I have been deeply engaged. And I think if you can be engaged, then you will find answers, because you'll ask questions if you're engaged. And finally, my last point. I ask you, what do you want to be engaged in as far as your life is concerned? Is it good enough for you to be only great software programmers or engineers? Is it okay? Look at the situation in our country today. I'll come to the current political situation in a minute, but take the broad issues facing the people of this country. I talk about this problem, chronic kidney disease, affecting largely the rural poor, Anuradhapura, Polanaru, all these areas. People are dying in their thousands. They've been dying for the last 15 years. We still do not know what's causing this. How frighteningly shocking is that? Now dialysis machines, because when you have kidney failure, you need to go to dialysis. A dialysis, a shot of dialysis, one session of dialysis costs 8,000 rupees. Some people have to do 3 a week, 24,000. What chance do they have, these rural poor? So this country needed 180 dialysis machines some years ago. 1,000 dialysis machines. We had 180. 1,000 dialysis machines would have cost us 2 billion rupees. We built the Surya Weber cricket stadium for 4 billion rupees. Hardly a cricket match is played there. Sangakkara was there at the Google talk when I spoke. The 5th greatest run scorer in the history of cricket, 12,000 runs. I wanted to ask him, how many runs did you score in Surya Weber? Hardly anything. Now, is it okay for us to be indifferent to this? And then you go and vote at an election. And then you elect someone, then you blackguard him and say, Patolya, Arakai, Mekai. Now he is calling someone Samanale. I mean, it's a bloody joke, isn't it? Is it okay for you to cast your vote for these people and then be indifferent, bitch and complain? Or should you be part of some movement that can bring about real change? Can you do coding for humanity? Can you work with organizations that where their websites suck, they just don't know how to get into social? Can you help them? Now we are seeing a slight build-up of people's movement against the political nonsense that's going on in this country. People you voted for, they'll, go and sell for 500 million, 200 million, 300 million, 400 million, a position in government. And you're okay with this. So I urge you, be engaged in the larger issues facing the people of this country. Only then, when you reflect on your life, you have been a great software engineer. You may have been a great agile engineer. You may have built a wonderful fortune for yourself and your family. But if you have 30 seconds to reflect on your life, if you have changed at least one of the many inequities that we face in this country, this planet, only then can you truly say, my life was well lived. My life was worth it. Thank you. Now, the gentleman who handed me the glass of water, colleague from, no, not him, the one who's seated, sorry, he's from Microsoft, also a colleague. The one in front, Millennium IT, I was just talking to him. Now here is an example of a wonderful company being killed by just delivery. It's an innovation. We did wonderful stuff. Fastest trading engine in the world was built here. Today, innovation is gone. Very sad. How many people from Millennium? Challenge me if I'm wrong. Challenge me if I'm wrong. It's not the same company because the focus has been on delivery, do it. No time for people. Like you said, Dave, can you have time to pull back and create and be creative, challenge, instead of working your ass off like this?
Right, thank you. You basically talk about engineering humans are quite difficult than engineering software systems. It is easy to engineer software because you have got all the coding and then online, and just you need to plug into the system, right? But engineering human is quite difficult task. How do you think? I would like to know your thoughts on how do we change the Sri Lankan education systems in order to create peoples with creativity, applying things into the real world in a more pragmatic way rather than more traditional way?
That's a tough one, really. I wish I had a simple answer. I could, put up 3 slides and tell you how to do it. It's not only Sri Lanka. Dave, you're from the UK, I believe. Yeah. Ken Robinson, Professor Ken Robinson, who talks about how schools kill creativity. He's talking about the problem of schools killing creativity, even in the United Kingdom. It's the same all over. This is the education system that was engineered, to use the word, for the Industrial Revolution. Just churn out people who can work in factories. Don't ask why, but to do and die. And your career is a bit like that. In fact, I digress. So coming back to you, it's a big, universal, global problem. They're trying to break out of this, not have examinations, bring collaboration. One of the things in your principle is collaborate. Schools, you don't teach them to collaborate. Do your job, get your marks. If you're good, you have a chance of getting in university, you have a better chance than all of your colleagues. We don't do problem solving, creativity problem. So it's a challenge, but people are trying. They're trying to get rid of examinations, but our country has gone in a strange direction. They have said, let's bring back STEM education. And there's a huge thing about, science, technology, engineering and math. That's okay, but we bring back the creative arts into school. That's what's missing. So my point is, you can be great engineers, but you need this other thing because of this continuous value that you're supposed to bring to your customer. If you don't have that mindset, how do I keep improving this? You won't make it. And Dave, you're right, great engineering is needed, but there is also that element, because we had engineers right through history, right? But it's important. But and you did say creativity and all of that, equally important, but I would say more important. So it's a tough one. But I'm urging you, because you are the next generation, you're going to have children, some of you already have children, don't do to them what your parents may have done to you. We have a little hope then. It starts with small people, it's a room full of people. So, I'm sorry I don't have a Sadhguru answer.
I tend to agree and disagree with what you said. You need a mix of creative people as well as industrial mentality people. Okay, I've been recruiting some people in the last 1 year. I see the millennials, they are full of ideas, but given a task, they fail. They don't have the consistency in delivery or in depth. They don't have the depth of knowledge in what they do. So you have to balance the two, creative as well as be in depth in one or two areas of speciality, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why they say, support, trust and motivate. Of course they come with ideas, they are, but that's how you get, maybe they're really smart people. You need to engage them because they don't have experience. And that's what Dave's point about engineering, that comes with experience. So you need experience, for sure. But you've got to work with them. And I don't want to generalize, but the problem there is engagement, They are not deeply engaged. So they flit around. Again, I won't say millennial. True for everyone. I don't want to, put labels on people. That's a challenge we have anyway. How do we get people to engage? Are they the right people that you hired in the first place? And social media is one of the biggest distractions to engaging. I thought maybe there may be a question on that. Huge problem. To stay focused, to engage. You're flitting. You're moving from one to another. You open a YouTube video. While that's playing, you're scrolling through the bottom, correct? That's how they keep you engaged the platform. Now, Tim Berners-Lee is fighting against all this nonsense. That's this Amazon and the Googles of the world, that they capture the internet. And it's killing innovation. It's also fostering innovation, don't get me wrong. But the way most young people are engaged, constantly on this bloody thing, short attention span, you can't stay engaged on a problem for a long time. So, those things you have to do. That's where you need to have good managers who understand this importance of it. How many managers understand this? I don't know. They are saying, let's do the Scrum and the Kanban and look at this board and that board and so how well we are utilized and all that. But are they understanding that this is the problem and I need to nurture and motivate these people? I don't know. You have to ask yourself whether that your organization fosters that kind of culture that's needed to develop this growth mindset. How many minutes more? Maybe about 3, maybe last question. Gender balance, at least one of the many ladies in the room must ask a question. You can't leave it to the men. They are useless anyway. Yes, go ahead, please.
Since you want the ladies to talk, I'll talk about ladies. And since you talk about Sri Lanka,
yeah.
I'll talk a bit about Sri Lankan ladies and the perception I have about it. As of now, Sri Lanka, as a country, we are heading, nowhere politically. Like you said, I totally agree with you. And it's a personal opinion anyway. But when you look at it, we are running out of all our resources. Either they're being sold or they're being, deprecated or they're not being used wisely. I think the best resource we have as of now is our people, right? And our brains and our minds and our creativity. And the next generation of, earnings or capital in the country is resources, our people, right? And when you're thinking about really getting into that, you only see people going as maids out of the country, right? And there are ways that we can actually break this vicious cycle by educating the girls, right? And educating in IT, right, for the girls is one of the things I think that we can break the system in this country. Because you only have to educate one generation of girls and the next generation will follow along with them, because when they'll be mothers, they'll obviously give, transfer the knowledge to their children. So that's just my perception. What do you think about it?
I completely agree with you. I completely agree. Education is one of the few things that we have that can change, pull a generation out of poverty. And that's why, we released a statement on this fiasco, and we are saying abolish the executive presidency. In that statement, we have said, even this government promised to spend 6% of GDP on education. They are spending 2%. Sadly, even the 2% is going to the wrong kind of education. Not the kind of education you need. But anyway, some education might be better and questionable whether this education is better, or you leave them alone and they'll turn out to be better people. People will learn to write code. You don't need to you can learn to write code. But to your point, yes, they're not spending enough on education, that's one. Our spending on defense, so many years after the war, 2009 the war ended, 9 years after the war ended, our spending on defense is going to be 306 billion rupees. More than the combined spending on health and education. Health is also important. Lots of our young people are having kidney disease. In my own company, average age is about 30-35, we do health check, voluntary health check. About 60% have either diabetes, have sugar, cholesterol, or pressure. So health. So yes, you're right, and we need to invest in education. But looking at our past, this country, I am not one of those guys who, have nostalgia, my God, we built the Ruan Mahavalisaya, no. But I'll tell you one thing that we did, engineering feat, our irrigation system, one of the most advanced in the world, water and soil conservation, tanks collecting water when it rains, small tanks feeding the larger tanks and so on. We could have easily ridden out this drought without too much of a problem. We neglect it. There's deep learning in that. So sometimes you look back to the past to see our future and learn something from it. It won't necessarily come from software and coding. Now, if they restore all of these tanks systematically, do the research, we can ride out even a 2 or 3 year drought. But instead of digging up and discovering this, we are filling sand and building a bloody port city just around the corner. For whose benefit is that? It's nuts. Just doesn't make sense.
Now, you talk about building engagement in the companies and making creativity, the de facto standards for education and all that. But aren't we one step behind that? Aren't we we are not even giving education properly? We are not even there yet to talk about as a country. Do you have a plan or a vision on do you have thoughts about how we can get there?
And that's why I try to speak and try to propagate this idea among parents. Even go easy on your children, even it's okay, even they can survive. I survived this education system, but just go easy, don't force them. They will learn, and if they can just engage in games and get them to organize with their friends to just play. If you just play more from the time you're 1 to 5, don't send them to any school. Don't send them Montessori or any Sori. Just let them play, they'll figure out. They'll learn much more. So I know this is, I don't have, the simple answer is, I don't have all the answers. But I can raise the questions. And I hope that each of you will find it in your own way to see how can I make my next generation of children more creative than what we went through. And expose them to the creative arts, music, acting, drama, dancing. There's a guy who's ING, the third largest savings company in the world. There were 9,000 savings banks. He started this, Arcadia Kuhlman, and he became the third largest. He said, I don't hire bankers, I have nothing to learn from them. I hire dancers, musicians, actors, artists. Because he thinks that's the type of people we need as we face an uncertain future to make some contribution, meaningful contribution. So engineering is good, but the creative arts I think is more important. Software, mind you, is a combination of art and commerce. I think we have taken the art out of software and we made it a little more engineering than more art. If you flip that a little, I think we have a better chance. So I'll end now, sadly, but we can chat during the break because time's up. Just one thought, again, the talk that I was giving. And, because all of you are thinking of careers, I never had a career. I just went along from a banker to a trade unionist to IT to, all kinds of things. And that's interesting because you see the road you take can take you to different ends, like your software agile development. Because you see, like when I started off, I was supposed to give another topic and I got on to Agile, it caught my attention. So follow different journeys so that your career can move in new and unexpected direction. And on that, career is something we could infuse life into. It's not something we wait for a whole life to escape. And Henry David Thoreau had a very interesting thing to say. He talked about retirement. Why work like a dog so that you can pant for a moment or two before you die? Damning bloody thing, isn't it? Work right to your life and you die. So I hope your profession or your CV or what you do is not your life. Infuse life into your software, into the work you do, and into your career. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.